Hi everyone, it's been a few weeks since I filmed the video and I was feeling guilty and I missed talking on a camera. So I'm gonna do, hopefully, I promised Lisa this would not be a 30-minute long video, but I wanted to do a May and June wrap-up video. I feel like I've been in a little bit of a reading slump lately, and then I went and looked at all the books that I've been reading, and I guess I couldn't really categorize it as a slump, because I have read a fair amount of books. Also, I'm wearing my new Jughead hat that my mom crocheted for me. I showed her a couple pictures of Jughead from Riverdale, which I like binge watched in a weekend. If you haven't watched it, you should. I tried to buy a pattern, but it was the wrong pattern. It was a knitting one that she crochets and not knits. She crochets, she doesn't knit. She did a couple and she turned out with this one and it's perfect and I love it. And that's half of a Halloween costume ready to go. Anyways, I was gonna talk about the books that I've read in May and in June. And yeah, I haven't been reading as many graphic novels because I'm not on the Maverick committee anymore. So it does feel like I haven't read a ton, but I've read a fair amount of stuff. So I finished the Cormoran Strike series, well, up to the ones that are finished being written, have been written, and the Silkworm and the other one, which I'd been putting off reading this series for a while. I don't know, I was worried that they wouldn't be as good as the Harry Potter series because they're written by J.K. Rowling and they're very different in like audience and subject matter and tone and everything, and I was just, I don't know, I was worried that they wouldn't be good, which was a false worry. It was because it's great because it's J.K. Rowling and she's such a great writer, and they're noirs, and that's, both of those things are right up my alley and I really like them. They are very dark, and the third one especially was really upsetting. So read with caution if you are a sensitive reader. I would not suggest them to a younger audience, definitely, but they were really good. The audio books are read by this amazing reader, so I suggest you do that. So I also read Ask the Passengers by A.S. King, and I had not read an A.S. King book, and Lisa really suggested this one. She said it was great, and it's like 5 stars good. It is wonderful. Hashtag perfect human being. I read a Georgette Hare book because I needed something light and fluffy after reading the Cormoran Strike books, and it was called Pharaohs Daughter, and it was silly because they're all kind of screwball comedies set in Regency England. It was Pharaohs Daughter, so she is, our main character is a young woman who like works in a gambling house, like a gambling den. She's great. I read, it's a short book and it's beautiful, Binti by, I'm gonna say her name wrong, I'm sorry, Nnedi Okorafor. I got it at TLA. I've been wanting it for a while. It's gorgeous. I talked about it in my book haul video after TLA. It's a short story and it just packs a lot into just like 90 pages. It's great. I read I'm gonna say it's another Regency romance called A Rogue by Any Other Name by Sarah MacLean. I'm trying to remember what that book was about. It was a while ago that I read it. It was okay. It was good. If you like Regency romances. Finally I got to read The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, which was just as good and heartbreaking and heartwarming and amazing as I've been hearing about, and I love that it's gotten so big and it's such an important book, especially like for everybody, but as you know, coming from a place of privilege, it really taught me a lot of things that I take for granted as like a white middle-class woman, and it's just good. It's really good, and I can't wait for the movie to come out and it to be amazing as well. And this is, you know, just my headcanon, and it's probably actually, like, it's not even how he's completely described, but for some reason I kept seeing the dad as Common. Like, I think Common should play the dad in this movie, but that's just me. This is another case of everyone in this family is a hashtag perfect human being. Like all of them. Like I love this family so much. Everyone. Okay, so good. I finally read Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, which is, I just think, the most hilarious, just great kind of setup for a book. So it's the fan fiction that a character is writing in a book about a fan fiction writer, and she actually wrote the book. And it's longer than the original book that it's about the girl writing the fan fiction. I just think it's hilarious. I read another contemporary romance by Rupi Lang. It's called Hard Knocks. It's the second in a series that I can't remember the name of, but it's about a hockey player and a doctor who specializes in head injuries, and the doctor comes out with an editorial about the dangers of concussions and brain damage in hockey players, and then a hockey player fires back at her and sparks fly, and everyone has a lot of issues they have to work through, and it's very interesting. It was pretty good. I liked it a lot. I read a book of poetry, Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur, which is really popular right now. Somebody in our library loaned it from us a couple months ago, and I saw it, and I read a couple of the poems, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to read this book. So I put it on hold, and I finally got it after months and months of waiting, and I read it in one sitting and then immediately had to go buy my own copy because it was so beautiful. It's sad, it's inspiring, it's beautiful, it's romantic. Yeah, it's really empowering. It's so good, so good. There's a lot of finallys. I've been doing a lot of fulfillment to my TBR lists. I read Preludes and Nocturnes all the way through. That's the first volume of the Sandman series by Neil Gaiman. You know how I feel about Neil Gaiman, I'm sure. Do you guys know how I feel about Neil Gaiman? I should do a video about Neil Gaiman. I love him. That's how I feel about Neil Gaiman. That's the thing I'm doing. That was thunder, and I love it. I finally read the first book in that series, and it was good. It was good. I'm gonna have to keep going. I just finished it Saturday night. I read Ready Player One, and that book is really good. Everyone's been telling me forever to read it, and I think I even got an arc of it way back in the day, before it officially came out from TLA, and then I just never got to reading it. But I listened to the audiobook, and Will Wheaton reads it, and so that was really cool. Especially when he name drops himself, because he's mentioned in the book. That is it for the books that I read in May and in June. The books that I'm reading right now, and I'm going to keep reading. I'm still reading The Secret History of Wonder Woman by Joe Lepore. I'm only about this far into it, about halfway through. Wonder Woman was just created. It took us this long to get to her. It is a little dry, but I'm still fascinated by it. So, and I've seen Wonder Woman twice now. It's really cool to have those kind of right side by side, reading about the creation of her and then seeing like this newest iteration of her. It's been kind of fascinating. I'm also reading, very slowly, I need to get back into it, The Love Interest by Cale Dietrich, which has such a great premise that I'm fascinated by, but I'm having some issues reading it. So it's about a kind of shadowy organization that trains young men to be love interests. They train you to be a good or a bad, and then they kind of identify specials or important people who are going to be powerful and influential, and then they place their bad and their good into that person's kind of life, and the bad and the good try to win their affection, which sounds okay. And so they have to like kind of fight each other. The downside is that the one who is not chosen to be the romantic partner of that person is killed. So there's, a little added incentive there, I guess. But our two characters in this one, our good and our bad, fall for each other while they're trying to get this girl to fall for them, which is so cool. When I first started reading the summary, I was like, oh, blah, this is like that awful movie with Chris Pine and Tom Hardy and Reese Witherspoon, I guess, where they're like trying to, win her affection. And I'm like, that's so bleh. But this kind of like turns that trope on its head, and I'm really excited to see how that goes. But it's really hard because it's like, it doesn't pull any punches, and it's really, one of them is gonna die, and he has that over his head, and they're gonna both lie to this girl, and I don't know, it's just, I guess I've been feeling really sensitive about it because I haven't been able to really get into it too much. Hopefully I will push past that because it's good. The character is kind of no nonsense, even though he's the good, he's not like a goody two shoes, because that's just an act. Anyways, okay, tell me what you've been reading lately. I'm sorry that I haven't been around. Make sure you do all those nice things you can do on YouTube, like this video, comment below with what you've been reading. If you agree or disagree with me on any of my thoughts on these books, we can exchange in a lively debate. That's fine with me. You can find me on Twitter at friendswithya. You can find me on Instagram, reading_rainbow_hair, and I'm on Goodreads. I think I'll put my link down there as well. So yeah, make sure you comment, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Okay.